Jewell is an innocent man. He's a hero.
There's a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes. There's a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
Do a couple in a row.
Park. You have 30 minutes.
You set that bomb.
There's a bomb in Centennial Park.
It is a new movie that is generating Oscar buzz, also some controversy, and it's about the 1996 Atlanta bombing at the Olympics.
Yeah.
And I remember that when it broke. I was working down in Detroit. It was a massive news story. They didn't know if the Olympics would continue, but this is the focus about Richard Jewell, who was the man who discovered the bomb at the park. He was a security guard. Like a little bit of a strange little man is probably the best way to describe it.
He was
awkward,
eccentric.
odd, eccentric, lived with his mother. And so when he discovered it, he also became the focus of the story. In that, well, maybe he's the one that set the bomb off.
The prime suspect.
And so Clint Eastwood is the director of this new movie, Richard Jewell, and he's been wanting to make this story. And I had a chance to go down and talk to him. I watched the movie. It's incredible, the tension it builds, and telling his story and watching what happened to him throughout it. And talking to Clint Eastwood about it, and also John Hamm about why this needed to be made and what we can learn from it.
And you got to meet Clint.
I got to meet Clint,
Enough
too.
talk. Let's see.
Park. You have 30 minutes.
You set that bomb.
It always stuck in the back of my brain that this story should be told. And it was kind of a real American tragedy. And I just thought I could tell this story, and it's kind of parallel to a lot of things you see today. Sort of a common man and a nice little life working for him. And then all of a sudden he got fame, overnight fame, and then overnight fame for being the villain. It's changed so quickly.
Enforcement, the movie's not an indictment of law enforcement in any way, shape, or form. It's really just about how people can make mistakes and how people can get it wrong sometimes, and how sometimes those mistakes can have truly awful consequences. And it's not just the consequences in this case for Richard, but it's the consequences of them not catching Eric Rudolph, or not even going after Eric Rudolph.
It really does look so good. It's one of those movies, just by looking at the trailer, it catches you because it is based on a real story, and then the way they present it.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know how this unfolds. You know what's happening with the tension that is created in it. And then it is a lesson for media and for police to a degree on how excuse me,
how you spin a story.
How you spin a story, and also the investigations, how people can get tunnel vision in those cases. And so Paul Walter Hauser, Richard Jewell passed away in 2007. So Paul Walter Hauser, who plays him, could not talk to him about it, but he did get a chance to talk to his mom, Bobby, who is still alive. And here's his thoughts on meeting with her and talking about reading for this role.
There were moments of kind of laughter or chuckling or shaking your head, and then there were moments that, you know, you got choked up while turning the pages. It was a very easy decision to make, and I think feels like a fateful one. I feel like I was meant to play Richard Jewell.
That moment when Bobby Jewell, Richard's mother, saw him, she thought the same thing I thought. I thought this person is born to play Richard Jewell. I couldn't think of one other actor.
She said, "You look just like Richard. You look just like my son." And sort of getting her sign off meant the world to me, you know.
Oh, what a moment. And we should mention, because you look at his mom, she wasn't that old. He died when he was very young. Richard
He was
Jewell.
only 44, yeah. And, and a lot of people think it was the stress of what happened with that investigation, because he was considered the hero at the moment. And then for 88 days, he was the focus of the investigation. And when the story broke, he was the villain. And it never, even though they did make an arrest in it, it never really went away that he was always connected to the bombing. Right. And only recently they just put a plaque up for him in that park to recognize him as the hero. He got all these people away from it.
And no money in the world, even though I'm sure he was granted some at the end, it can remove that stress that's caused day in, day out. When you go through something like that, just trying to do good and then being seen as the villain. In
such a horrific situation, and when you thought you'd done well on it and helped out. But now there is some controversy about Kathy Scruggs, who is the reporter, and she is played by Olivia Wilde. And there's a scene where it's implied that she may have slept with the FBI agent to get the story. The Atlanta Journal-Constitution has come out and said, no, that's simply not her case. We think this should be there should be a mention in it that this is fiction and not true. And Warner Brothers has responded, defending the movie, calling the paper's claims baseless, saying it is unfortunate and the ultimate irony that the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, having been a part of the rush to judgment of Richard Jewell, is now trying to malign our filmmakers and cast. So there is some controversy with it. But we also, there's an incredible cast. I mean, we're talking, Olivia Wilde was one of them. She couldn't make it for this, but John Hamm, Katie,
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell, and oh my God, Kathy Bates.
Kathy Bates.
How can I forget Kathy Bates? They were part of this movie, and they said the chemistry. They all walked into when Clint and Paul were getting ready for their interview. They all walked in. There was lots of laughs, and they say chemistry was everything about this movie.
Let's take a look.
I watched you with Clint earlier. You guys just seem to have a genuine chemistry.
I mean, he's one of us. He's an actor. I mean, they don't even yell action because of the Westerns. They wouldn't yell action because it would scare the horses. So they go like this. He keeps rolling. We improvise once we've got the scene. And I've never had an experience like that. I just adore him.
They were 6-hour days quite often, and he was just so free with us. He was so gentle. I was saying last night, it's like a horse whisperer with the actors.
Certain people you just want to work with no matter what it is. You're willing to jump in because you know it'll be a special experience.
There's a genuine respect for the story, too. And I think that we all came to it with that real desire to tell this story in the right way.
Can't wait to see it.
Yep, comes out on the 13th, and I got to meet Clint Eastwood
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Friday.
That is tomorrow, Friday the 13th.
You got to meet Clint.
I got to meet Clint.
Check.
Done.